land. Ways one can acquire interest in land. How can one acquire interest? What are the kinds of interest one can acquire over a landed property? What are the kinds of interest one can acquire over a landed property? Okay. Hi, Emma. How are you? Oh, Alicia, you said you love Canada. Me that love America. I'd love to visit America one day. Emma, how are you? Nothing is wrong with Canada. So what are the ways one can acquire interest in land? That's what we're going to discuss today. I know that for... Yeah, Alicia, I'm here. I'm here, Alicia. I know that in most of these countries, like America, Canada, and some of all these other countries, it's quite difficult to acquire land. What people do is they buy houses, and in most cases they are assigned a space to build their house. It's quite difficult for people to just buy an empty land and start planting on it, or start just like it is in Nigeria. So we're going to be discussing how one can acquire interest in land. How one can acquire legally and lawfully acquire interest in land. One of the ways one can acquire interest in land is by leasehold. Now, in this instance, when it's lease, it means that interest that person has acquired over that land is for a specific period of time. It's not an outright acquisition. It's for a specific period of time for a specific amount. Oh, okay, Alicia, take care of yourself. So leasehold is for a specific period of time, and the lessee will pay the lessor. Is two parties that are involved in a leasehold agreement. The lessor is the owner of the property that is willing to give it to the lessee for a specific period of time. And in a leasehold arrangement, the reversionary interest of the land, when I say reversionary interest, I'm talking about the fact that the land is not outrightly that of the lessee, that it will still go back to the lessor at the expiration of the time allowed. At the expiration of the time allowed, the land or the landed property in question will still go back to the lessor. Usually, leasehold agreements are usually... Oh, okay. Mokchapu, welcome. What part of Canada? Hello. Welcome. Thank you for joining this live. What part of Canada do you stay? Where in Canada? Hello, I'm here. Where in Canada do you stay? Oh, Vancouver. Nice. Thank you so much for joining this live. Please don't forget to subscribe and give us a thumbs up, okay? Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you so much for your compliment. I'm currently at Regina, but I'm a Nigerian. I'm a Nigerian, and I'll soon go back to Nigeria. Yes. So, the reversionary interest in a leasehold arrangement goes back to the lessor because he didn't in this arrangement give it out. He just gave a period of time. Okay, so they call it term of years. He gave term of years. He did not give total and outright ownership of the property. Now, a leasehold agreement is usually for a period of time that is not less than 3 years. Under the laws of Nigeria, a leasehold agreement is not less than 3 years, and is usually carried out by most of these organizations. And I know individuals usually pay, but most of these organizations that will want to use the property over an extended period of time, they usually go for leasehold and pay it in tranches, they pay for 5 years. Probably they take a lease of 10 years and pay for 5 years now, and subsequently pay for the rest of the 5 years, depending on the market structure at the time, or the changing realities at the time. So a leasehold agreement is usually for a longer period of time, while a tenancy arrangement is Thank you so much. I hope you subscribed. I hope you subscribed. Let me see if you subscribed. Please do. Thank you. Thank you. Bye. So while a tenancy arrangement is for a shorter period of time, even though it takes the form as that of a leasehold arrangement, is also for a term of years, but it's for a term of years that is less than 3 years. So a tenancy agreement, or a tenancy arrangement, is usually for most times is usually for 1 year. In fact, in most cases is usually annually, but sometimes some people go with for 2 years, at most 3 years. But when it crosses 3 years, or from 3 years, it becomes a leasehold arrangement. Now the tenancy both for tenancy and for lease, the reversionary interest over that property reverts back to the lessor or the landlord. In terms of tenancy, we have two parties, the landlord and the tenant. In lease arrangement, we have two parties, the lessor and the lessee. The landlord is the owner of the property, while the tenant is the one who has paid for a term of years. But in the lease arrangement, the lessor is the owner of the property, while the lessee is the one who has paid for a term of years. So both for lease and for tenancy, these are ways one can acquire interest in land, especially in Nigeria. Lease, tenancy are ways one can acquire interest in land, especially in Nigeria. Now, another way one can acquire interest in land is by mortgage, which is what is prevalent in most of these advanced countries, like here in Canada, in America, in the UK, a lot of countries all over the world acquire interest in land by mortgage. And when we talk about mortgage, we're talking about acquiring interest in land and paying it over an extended period of time. At the expiration or at the end of your payment, you now have total right, ownership of that landed property. That's how mortgage works. Mortgage arrangement. You pay for an extended period of time, and at the end, you now acquire ownership. Now, mortgage exists in Nigeria, but it is very rare. Mortgage arrangement for acquiring interest in land is very rare, but it is recognized by our laws in Nigeria. However, it is rare. It's usually prevalent in most of these advanced countries, like I said. Okay, so we also have another way that one can acquire interest in land, and that is by came to my mind now. I lost it. Mortgage by irrevocable power of attorney. By an irrevocable power of attorney. When we talk about an irrevocable power of attorney, we are talking about outright ownership. And an irrevocable power of attorney is a way that one can acquire an interest in land in Nigeria, especially in the southeastern parts of Nigeria. Most of these Abia State, Imo State, I know of Abia and Imo. I think Anambra also. But Enugu does deed of lease for outright acquisition. Now, in these areas, you cannot relinquish your right over a property by deed of conveyance. You do it by irrevocable power of attorney. An irrevocable power of attorney is usually a way one can transfer his interest in land by is like empowering someone to take over that land, and that it is irrevocable because it is coupled with an interest. The person you are actually empowering to take over all the rights and interest over the land now pays you an amount of money to do that. That's the interest, and it is declared irrevocable in the agreement. It is declared irrevocable. In the document of sale or in the document of transfer, it is declared irrevocable, and it is coupled with an interest. It is different from the regular power of attorney. Power of attorney regularly, as in normally, is just to empower someone to act on your behalf. But an irrevocable power of attorney is not just acting on your behalf. It is acting on your behalf till infinity, and it is coupled with an interest. It is a way of transferring title to land in some parts of Nigeria, because that is what their land laws and land registries recognize. An irrevocable power of attorney. Okay? Now, another way one can acquire interest in land is by gift. Now, in an irrevocable power of attorney, we have two parties. The donor, is the donor and the donee of the power. The donor and the donee. Now, one can acquire interest in land by gifts. Gifts. Deed of gifts. One can acquire interest in land by gifts. Okay? Now, in this instance, not the one can gift anybody his land or landed property and execute a deed of gift in that regard. Okay? And two parties are involved. The person who is gifting is called the donor, and the person who is receiving the gift is called the donee. And the donee in a gift, in a deed of gift, does not have to pay any money. It's free of charge. That is why it is called a gift. It is free of charge. And the donor now transfers all his rights and interests over that property, the totality of his rights and interests, to the person who is gifting, that's the donee, and that donee can register the title, the gifted title he received from the donor, in any of the lands registry, because it is a recognized means of acquiring interest in land. Gift is a recognized means. Deed of gift is a recognized means of acquiring interest in lands in Nigeria. Okay? Now, another way one can acquire interest in land in Nigeria is by inheritance. Estate of the deceased. It's either you inherited it by probate or you inherited it by letters of administration. Inheriting it by probate has to do with will. Probably the testator or the person whom you are inheriting it from died and wrote a will before he died, that when he dies, this is land at so and so area will now belong to this person. That is a recognized way of acquiring interest in lands in Nigeria, by inheritance or by probate. And when that person dies and that will is read, automatically that property is transferred to the person that is mentioned in that will. And that person does not just take the landed properties, the landed property and the documents. The person also takes a copy of that will that mentioned him as the new owner or the one who has just inherited that property. The same applies with letters of administration. Letters of administration is in the instance where the person who owns the land did not write any will. You now acquire the property by inheritance, by going to apply at the probate registry for letters. Maybe you are the child or you are his next of kin. You go and apply for letters of administration to officially assume ownership, so that a copy of the letters is attached to the original landed property, landed documents, as now your own. You now hold all of them as because those are the documents you will present if you want to register your title over that property. Now, another way one can also acquire interest in land is by sale. Yes, by sale or by acquisition. Let me put it that way. Now, when one now buys, you outrightly buy the interest of the person that owns the land. That land automatically becomes your own. Now, in sale, you can buy a land that is covered by a certificate of occupancy. You can buy a land that is not covered by a certificate of occupancy. A land that is covered by a certificate of occupancy, the document that is executed is a deed of assignment. That is in Rivers State, Port Harcourt of Nigeria. The land that is covered by a certificate of occupancy, the document that is usually executed is a deed of assignment, and the parties are either the assigner, the person who owns the land and is now selling, and is now selling out his land, or the assignee, the person who is buying that interest. Now, if it's not covered by a certificate of occupancy, the document that is usually executed is a deed of conveyance. A deed of conveyance, and the parties in this deed are either the vendor, the person who is selling out his interest over the property, or the purchaser, the person who is buying the interest over the property. So these are the ways one can acquire interest in land. There is one salient way that one can also acquire interest in land, and that is by occupation, long use. That is why I usually tell my clients, when you buy land, please begin to exercise ownership by either erecting a structure and living there, or fencing the land and leasing it to someone who will actually be cultivating on the land, as you know, and be giving you and be remitting proceeds to you, or you use the land yourself to cultivate. But make sure you exercise ownership. Show that the land is yours. Don't just buy a land, an empty land, and leave it vacant, because the person who now occupies that land and occupies it for a period of not less than 10 years uninterrupted can claim ownership over the land. If it's a property, maybe an uncompleted building, the person is staying there and stays there uninterrupted for not less than 10 years, and now the person now comes to claim that it's his own. If you go to court, the person will acquire that land by occupation, long use, uninterrupted long use. The person was originally an adverse possessor, a meddlesome interloper, but you did not say anything, you did not challenge him, you did not stop him, you allowed him. And at the expiration of 10 years, he can wake up one morning and say, I like this house, I like this land, it's now my own. You people now go to court, you'll be shocked that the court will say it's his own. So when you acquire land, especially empty land, make sure you exercise some form of control or ownership over that land. You can build on it and start living. You can fence it and give it to someone to start farming on it. You can even erect shops and rent it out. You can I also cultivate on it yourself, but exercise some form of ownership or control. Don't just buy and leave it. So I have told us how one can acquire interest in land in Nigeria. And even in other countries, like I said, mortgage. So are there people who have questions here? Do you have questions? Or do you want to tell us how you people acquire interest in land in your country? How do you acquire interest in land in your country? Any question? Are there people who have questions? I have about 24 minutes to go, and I'll use it to take questions. Okadem, welcome. What do you mean by what's the language of Jesus? So any question? Are there people who have questions? Please, you can ask your question. Now is the best time to ask your question. So go ahead and ask your questions. I'm here for it. There are people who have questions here. Please ask your questions. My friends, do you have any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Why are we staying quiet now? Any questions? Any questions? Let's say something now. What are the questions that you have? What are the questions that you have? Where is everybody? Where is everybody? Where is everybody? Please, if people don't have question now, let me know. Can now go off. Than to keep mute. Not nice. Not nice at all. Not nice at all. Jesus, 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 what a wonder you are. Jesus, 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 what a wonder you are. Jesus, 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 what a wonder you are. Oh, Jesus, what a wonder you are. Oh, 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 oh, Jesus, what a wonder you are. And oh, what a wonder you are. Mm, 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 mm. You are. Oh, oh, Jesus, what a wonder you are. Oh, 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 Jesus, what a wonder you are. And oh, oh, Jesus, what a wonder you are. Oh, oh, wonder you. So if I've seen silence here for almost 15 minutes and nobody is here, I have to bring this live stream to an end. So guys, thank you so much for having me, and enjoy the rest of your day.